Hi, my name's Adrian, and in today's video I wanted to take a look at 4 very simple background transitions you can do for clickable elements. In the past, you used to have clickable titles or even a button that says read more, but these days you don't have that. For mobile and tablet and even for desktop, you just have one big element that is clickable, and sometimes desktop users don't know that. So we create a background transition when you hover over a state or an element so that people know that it's clickable. And we'll have a look at different ways we can approach this and just make them a little bit more interesting. So if you're ready to get started, if you like this kind of content, hit like and hit subscribe because it lets me know what kind of content you guys want. Alright, so let's get started. We've got an empty canvas here and we're just going to start coding and putting elements on the page. Let's create a section, and in here will be an article with a h2 tag, a p tag, and maybe an image which will be a div class. For the h2 tag, let's put in whiteboarding, and for the p tag we'll put in something like this video will show you how to do whiteboarding for your website designs. So that's pretty standard. Let's start styling this. Let's make some padding for the body tag, or for the body class, 30 pixels, and for the section with the article, let's make that a max width of maybe 420 pixels. Let's do a background which is slightly gray just so we can see where it's at. Maybe FA, a border radius of maybe 15 pixels. Finally, let's add some padding on here. 30 pixels might be too much, so we'll do 15 pixels. And finally, let's add our image in here. And for the image class, we'll just do a height of maybe 200 pixels. Might be too much, maybe 150 pixels. Let's make that a background color of C, just so we can see it. And we'll make it 180 actually, just so it's a little bit bigger. For the H2 tag, let's put in a margin top of maybe 10 pixels. Great, so that's enough for us to get started. This is a pretty standard element. The only other thing we might want to do is do a cursor here, and that'll be a pointer just so that people know it's clickable. Now right now there's no hover state on this at all, so we'll start looking at our very first hover state. Let's create a class in here called v1. So our first version, we'll do and v1. We'll do something very simple. Let's do background will equal maybe E1, E1, E1. So that's a darker gray. And we'll make this happen when we perform a hover. So let's put that in and see what it looks like. That's pretty standard, but nothing special. So what we want to do is we want to do a transition. When we run the transition command, we want to put in a time period, which in this case we'll do as 0.25 seconds. We want to put in why it or how it happens. You can do linear, but I prefer ease because it looks more smooth. And finally, you put in which element you want to transform. In this case, we're doing the background. If we apply this and hover over, we can see that it's nicely and smoothly flowing into that background color that we're applying. That's pretty standard. Let's create a new article and let's do something more interesting. For this one, let's create a new class called version 2. And for version 2, we might want to create a hover state which happens from the top to the bottom. So in order to do this, we'll have to add in something a little bit different. We'll create a position which will be relative, an overflow which will be hidden, and we'll create a special element which is called before. For the before element, it'll be empty. It'll be a display of block. And it'll have an absolute position. So in this case, the absolute position will start at the top. It'll be from the very left and the very right. And it'll also have a background color. And this background color will be that E1, E1, E1. Right now, we won't be able to see it, but we'll create a hover effect so that it comes all the way down. Let's do hover, and let's do back. Let's do bottom is 0%. So this is where we wanted to finish at. Let's make sure it starts off at 100%, which means that it's at the top. If we do that now and add in a transition again of 0.25 seconds, we should see it flow from the top to the bottom. So let's do that now. And let's see if that takes effect. I seem to be missing something here. Let's double check. We've got, yes, we need to apply this here with the section before. Great, so that's applying just fine. We do need the transition to actually happen on the bottom item. So if we apply that, we can see it's working. The only problem is it's overflowing on our elements. In order to fix that, we'll just need to add a couple of things. We'll add a h2, a .image, and a p tag in here. And we'll make them all to be relative. This will just make sure that they're on top of that element rather than below it. Now if we have a look, we've got a nice transition. And that looks pretty good. Let's have a look now at creating a third element for transitioning. Let's copy this article. And let's do version 3. So for version 3, we might want to do something again a little bit different. Maybe we'll use a circle to expand out. In order to do that, we might have to start at 50% here. And on the left, we'll start at 50%. We'll take off this bottom section. We'll do a border radius of maybe 50%. That'll make it a circle. And then what we'll do is do a height of 0 and a width of 0. Great. The last thing we'll want to do is a transform. And this will translate the background. Sorry, this will translate the position of the element from the left 50% right into the center. We'll do this by doing -50% and -50%. Great. Let's change the transition down here to be on height and width. So let's do this height and let's add another one of 0.25 seconds ease for width. Great. Finally, let's have a look at making these a lot higher, a lot bigger. Let's make the width 100 or maybe 1000 pixels and the height 1000 pixels. If we apply this, we should see a circle expanding out from the middle. Let's see if this works. So that seems to not have taken effect. Sorry, I haven't set this to number 3. There we go. So that seems to have worked, but it's a little bit too fast. So let's make this maybe 500 for the width and 500 for the height. Now that looks like it's working, but it's a little bit too fast. So let's make that as 0.5 seconds. Great. I'm not sure what's happening here with the border radius. I think I've not labeled it properly. So let's put in border-radius, put in 50%. There, we've got a nice circle. It's not making its way all the way out. So let's do a percentage value instead of a pixel value. That might be safer. So let's do it from 0% to 100% and see what happens. So that's looking okay, but the problem here is it's not a uniform circle because it's trying to apply at 100%. In that case, what I sometimes like to do is instead of doing a height, I'll do a padding, and we'll do a padding top of 100 or 0% to start off with, and then we'll do a padding top of 100%. Finally, let's add this into our animation and see how that looks. So that's a nice solid circle. It probably needs to be 150% just so that it expands all the way out. But now we've got a nice transition here that looks pretty good. Now let's have a look at creating a fourth transition. For our fourth transition, maybe we'll do something a little bit different. Let's create a new element here. Article is version 4 now. And for version 4, maybe what we'll do is we'll do an angle. Maybe something like using a border radius to create like a triangle that expands out. So let's apply all the numbers here just so that we know which is which. Scroll all the way down. And for version 4, we've copied most of these elements, but we're going to use this before element again. All right, so for this, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to create a triangle that expands all the way out. It'll sort of look like it's flowing in from the left. To do this, we're going to create a new before element. So this element will create a border style. We'll do a width of 0 pixels and a height of 0 pixels. We'll create the border style as solid and the border width as 200 pixels and 200 pixels, 0 and 0. And finally, let's do a border color. And maybe we'll do this as EF, transparent, transparent, and transparent for all the angles. Great. So that's a nice triangle. It's happening in the background. We're not seeing it very well like right now. So I'm just going to make it red so you guys can see it a little bit better. It's not starting at the very top left. It's actually starting a little bit in. Let's have a look at why that is. Let's make it maybe 500 pixels by 500 pixels. So there we can see it. But we haven't applied the positioning. So what we'll do is we'll do top equals 0 and left equals 0. There we go. We'll probably need this to be double the size of the box. So we'll do 800 and 800. That's where it'll end up as. Let's do E1, E1, E1. And let's copy this across down here. To start off with, it'll be 0 and 0. Great. Now if we hover over it, and we'll need to add in this before element again, and add a transition. Let's pull one in from the top here. And we'll do the transition here on the border width and delete the one here on the width. We should see it expands out, and it's a really cool effect coming in from the top left and going down to the bottom right. So these are 4 really simple, really cool CSS transitions that you can do as a hover state. So I hope this video has given you some insights into different options that are available for hovers. In the next video, I'm going to have a look at how we can do different transitions for text elements, for images, and even some better animations. So if you like this kind of content, if you want more like it, hit like and hit subscribe because it lets me know what kind of content you guys like. Thank you for watching.